world. My name is Max Stein, and I love video games.
I'm the Megabuck. I really love video games.
And my name is Raph. I also love video games.
Hey friends, Vinny here. Boom, headshot. I love video games.
And welcome to the Game Treasure Podcast, where I hit my mic at the intro. I mean, where we talk about treasured video games of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Today we have a very special message from the King of Video Games regarding a very special game. In the subject line of his email, he wrote, "Did you know Counter-Strike turned 24 today?"
Wow.
I said,
Almost a quarter
"Wow, King of
century.
video games. That's a good point. I didn't think about how old I am today. So thank you for reminding me, King of Video Games."
Making
Ow,
me
my
feel
back.
good. I feel good about myself now.
Get out there and vote Counter-Strike.
How many of you guys' exposures to Counter-Strike? Mr. Venicore, Raph, you guys play Counter-Strike as youths?
Dude. Yeah, dude, I was there at
yeah.
the very beginning, like the very,
Yeah.
very, very beginning.
Yeah.
Not
Like
Global
LAN.
Offensive.
No.
No,
Regular Counter-Strike,
absolutely
yeah.
not.
I
Regular,
jumped in
Source
on
and
the
1.
source. The Counter-Strike
regular
source.
CS.
Source
Yeah.
and 1.6.
Mhm.
We're talking
So-
LAN parties. You didn't play over the internet. You played at a LAN party.
That's
Oh,
true.
geez,
And I had more than a few here at our house, too. We played that, StarCraft and others. But, Mac, if you don't remember, when I was in high school, so you would have been a little bit younger, and I started really playing PC games a lot, Dad had a T1 line for work at
hell
his
yeah.
house.
I remember.
No one had those. And
That
so
was
when
my
I played
memory.
Counter-Strike, I could
Nobody
kick
had
people's
that.
asses.
Wow.
Dad's very big hardwood desk in the den
Mhm.
that was only like golf business stuff. And then there was
This desk is for golf business.
Diablo 2 and Counter-Strike. And
And
Counter-Strike was
Empires.
my first exposure to getting my ass kicked by people on the
Warcraft
internet.
2, Age of
Oh, yeah.
Empires
Yeah.
2,
Something to do it?
Counter-Strike. Yeah, dude.
Those
That
classic
was
Valve,
Counter-Strike.
those
Never
Valve
again.
sound effects when you buy a gun that like I can't even
Ga-
replicate the sound, but
Gaming will never be in that state ever again. It's impossible, but that was truly a magical time.
Absolutely.
But before we really deep dive into some shooter games, why don't we go back in time as per usual? Buck, will you and RetroGameTreasure.com send us back to our childhoods this week, please?
Let's go back in time.
Zone.
I'm so sad that spooky season's over because I missed
Yeah.
spooky games.
It's
Um,
Christmas. It's already
No,
Christmas
it's not.
time.
No, Mariah Carey's
it's
just starting to
November
thaw.
1st. It's officially Christmas season. You can't fight this. It's just
All
a
right.
fact of life.
I'll be right back. I got to go put up my Christmas tree then. All right, so I got a fun one for you guys today to branch out a little bit. It's a really fun genre, but it's not the one you're probably thinking of when I talk karting games, which is a pretty
Okay.
Big-
All right.
big-
okay.
big
You
genre.
mean
I
Monster
hope
Hunter?
I hope it's the Final Fantasy one.
No, so no, but I'll get there. That's pretty great. That was a little pricier, actually. No, today I'm going to talk about not the most popular one. It's not Mario Kart, and it's not arguably the second most popular one, which is Diddy Kong Racing,
Okay.
but probably the third most popular one, which is the Crash karting series. I'm talking about the second one, Crash
Whoa.
Nitro
Okay.
Kart
Mm,
on the GameCube and PS2 and Xbox.
I
people
have
love
no
this
recollection of this
series.
game at all.
What's that?
You don't, which is funny because they remastered this like 4 or 5 years
Zero
ago.
recollection of this game at all.
If you were a Mario Kart, and you did a lot of Mario Kart, but you didn't like the other ones, this was more for like the kids that like, oh, I have a PS2, but I don't have a GameCube, so I can't
Mhm.
get Double Dash, so I get or I have a PS1, I don't have an N64, and so I get Crash Team Racing, which was the first one, and this is the second one in the series. They made another one in this series as well too, but like I said, they remastered this one as well on the GameCube. The coolest thing about this one over Mario Kart is it has a fully fleshed out story, and it has
Oh, what?
full cutscenes.
Oh, neat.
Like
I didn't know
Crash and the crew get their house sucked up to some other planet. Dr. Nudo and the crew gets their castle sucked up to some other planet, and there's some other alien dude that's like, you guys got to race go-karts or I'm going to let this guy kick your butt, so you got to race go-karts. And that's your only choice.
Makes sense to me.
That's it. So it has all these cutscenes.
I never played any of the Crash Team Racings. Our friend David swears by them. We definitely played Diddy Kong Racing. I like the fact that
Yes.
your car transforms in that game. Does your car do any transforming in this game? I guess is
Only
a,
like only like the Mario Kart 8 style transforming where your wheels
yes.
turn sideways and you hover in some
That kind of
places.
thing,
So
yeah.
they stole that from this series. But similar thing with all the weapons and everything. It definitely has more of the Diddy Kong vibes than the Diddy Kong Racing vibes than the
Mhm.
Mario Kart vibes. The weapons are obviously all crash based. You grab the Wumpa fruits instead of coins to kind of increase your top speed. It's the
Mhm.
same damn thing. A lot of the tracks are a little more advanced in like their design. They do the anti-gravity thing a lot, so it almost feels more like Wipeout in a lot of racing
Ooh.
sections than it does like a Mario game.
Ooh.
The weird part with this one was, and the GameCube is definitely one of the better versions, is this game came out on a lot of consoles and the versions vary quite a bit. It came out on GameCube, PS2, Xbox, also came out on the GBA, Game Boy Advance, which the
Oh.
Game Boy Advance version is considered very good.
Oh, really?
And it was also ported to the Nokia N-Gage.
I want to get me a Game Boy Advance Crash
Racing.
Racing.
Got real excited.
I'll
Looked
say
pretty
with the GameCube port, you definitely get the 4 controllers, the 4
that's
players.
awesome.
That helps
Yes.
with a kart
Yes.
racer.
It does have that. I don't know if the PS2 has the multi-tap, and the Xbox had 4
Right.
ports, so you can play the Xbox
Oh,
version.
that's
with
right.
4
But then you
players
got to play
also,
with
so-
those terrible controllers.
Well, once they went from the Duke to the regulars, whatever they forget what they call the smaller ones now.
Yeah, I
But
don't remember.
I had a funny note though about in the world of like this karting genre, right? Like I said, this one's probably like the distant third, in at least to me, because Mario Kart's obviously the top and Diddy Kong Racing everyone's listed one. But here's some other examples of companies and IPs that have made similar Mario Kart games because of Mario Kart.
Yes.
To start out, Chocobo Racing, South Park Rally, Looney Tunes Space Race, Star Wars Bombad Racing, Pac-Man World Rally, Burger King Pocket Bike Racer, Mod Nation Racers, Sonic All-Star Racing, Disney Magical Racing Tour, Cartoon Network Speedway, Nickelodeon Kart Racers, Little Big Planet Karting, Super Indy Karts, Garfield Kart, and Smurfs Kart.
You see, I
that
was
Smurfs
completely
card is great.
confused when you said karting. I was for a full 30 seconds. I was like, "What the hell is he talking about?" I thought it was like a deck builder or something like that.
It's where you
But
throw
then
cards at
mentioned-
each other.
Karting,
Yeah, right. Yeah,
that-
Karting
Karting.
with a
Oh.
K.
because I had no idea that the
karting simulators
karting-
is where you play as a bouncer outside of a nightclub. And then
Exactly,
you-
that's what I was
you
thinking.
Try to
I had
No,
no idea that
that's
there were
okay.
this many go-kart games. That's crazy.
Chocobo
Just to name a few.
Racing
Why not?
kicks ass.
Yeah,
honestly.
right. Yeah, why not? Yeah, sure.
Which one?
Chocobo Racing.
They're fun.
Oh yes, Chocobo
Chocobo
Racing.
Racing.
I mean,
Oh,
it's the
yeah.
same thing, but it has the magic and stuff. They remade that a couple years ago too, but it's
Mhm.
digital only, except in Japan, which I need to get my hands on a physical copy.
Gnarly.
You can get one in March, Buck.
Hell yeah!
So go to retrogametreasure.com. What kind of settings? Do you have a kart racing preference that you can place, or is this just like a arcade racer? What kind of settings you got to have?
We do have a racing category, which
Right.
includes both these and some of the others. We have a fun sports category, which, not to segue away from this, but that has things like Mario Golf in it, as opposed to like a regular, just like a Tiger Woods golf or something, which most
Right.
people don't want, and we don't even carry that much because we understand. So even though this is in the racing category, there's other settings that you can select, and you'll notice down here this has got the E for everyone down here, and you're okay with you like E for everyone games is one of the bonus questions that we ask you. And so
Huh.
if you're selecting that as well too, it helps you to kind of grab this, because when you get into some of like the later Need for Speeds and some of those that have story along with them, sometimes they aren't E for everyone, so they kind of branch into a different category.
Right. You get a car crash, and you're like, well, that's not for kids.
How
yeah.
much blood and guts is there?
Whoops. Well, nice. Go to www.retrogametreasure.com. Select your personal preferences and get your copy of Crash Nitro Racing 2. What was the subheader of that one?
It's just Crash Nitro Kart.
Crash Nitro Kart for the GameCube today. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have a very special message from a very special somebody. We'll be right back.
You will have to race in order to win the Galaxy Circuit and go home.
Okay, guys, as I mentioned before, I got an email from the King of Video Games reminding me that Counter-Strike turned 24 today. And let's go ahead and peep that message right now.
My lords, my ladies, I now present to you the King of Video Games.
Hello, it is I, the King of Video Games.
Game Treasure Crew, I come to you beseeching a request. Our kingdom is once again in need of video game gems. This week, of the first-person shooter variety. So aim down sight and aim down sight and smoke on me. We need first-person shooter gems.
Man,
Sounds like the
loud in
king's
there,
losing
King.
his
I think
shit
you're
right now.
downrange.
The royal firing range is a pop in place.
They have a grenade launcher there or something? What was so loud?
Man.
Well, King of Video Games, ask and ye shall receive.
It was
First
so loud,
person-
my video stopped.
First-person shooter gems. Well, here at Retro Game Treasure, or here at the Game Treasure podcast, we're not as well versed, I don't think, in first-person shooter games, honestly, as we are at, say,
We outgrew
role-playing
them.
games or puzzle games or weird, obscure job games. But I did dig deep through my mind palace to think of a few games from my childhood that I enjoyed, first-person shooter-wise, because Raph
Ooh.
had mentioned before the show started that I guess I did play first-person shooters a bit as a kid when first-person shooters had decent storylines, like
Mhm.
in their single-player mode. Which brings me to the game that I would like to present to the king of video games, which is Call of Duty 3.
All right.
If you have a PlayStation or a GameCube and you collect video games, get Call of Duty 3. It's not that expensive, and I'll tell you, it's got one of the best dang first-person like mission like why do I keep campaign? That's the word.
Oh, okay.
Has one of the best campaign modes that I think it's honestly the best one I've played since it.
Campaign
Maybe that
mode. We
is
used to
because
just call that the game.
yes,
Yeah.
I mean there obviously is multiplayer because this is the time when the internet was around. This was 2006. This is developed by Treyarch and published by Activision. And I remember playing this game. I was in high school. Buck, I think, had given me like an old PC of his or something, like a pretty nice one. So this was like the first really good PC game that I played, and it is very traumatized. Like it was I wrote in my notes, it was so realistic looking and sounding at the time that it made me sick to my stomach. Like I didn't feel like when you're doing the Normandy and you shoot a German guy in the head, I just like remember being like, oh, I just killed somebody. I don't know. I've played first person shooters since then, but I've never played one with a storyline that was that good. You're taking buildings and you're throwing grenades into rooms and just killing whole rooms of guys and hearing the whole thing. It's very cinematic and good. The guns sound good and look good. It's kind of got that hunt thing where you're using World War II guns, so it's all sort of clunky and chunky and thick sounding, and bayonets are still in play, so there's lots of just like stabbing guys. I don't know. It's a game that I think you could still get, like I said, for the GameCube or the PS2 if you've never played it, and you could go through that campaign and be like, damn, this holds up. This is a cinematic ass moments where you look out of a window and watch a building get hit by a rocket launcher and you're like, oh shit, and then it all comes tumbling down. This is in 2006. This was, in my opinion, way far ahead of its time.
I remember
almost
this
20 years ago.
game. I'm watching footage now, and I'm like, "Wow, I remember playing this. This was a really good one. This was actually a very good Call of Duty game."
The only problem with us as gamers for the Call of Duty series is that if you've been a gamer for 20, 30 years, you've seen 15 of them, plus the Battlefield series, plus all of the other series. Like there's so many of them that unless it's really your bag,
right?
We only played a handful of them. But there's ones like that really stick out as gems.
You're also old enough to remember when they were good.
Right. So that's a game that, like I said, I think if you are a subscriber to RetroGameTreasure.com,
oh yeah, definitely.
And if you have one of those consoles that you could play it, you'd be like, we talked last week about good 7s. This is like an 8 that you can get for on the cheap.
They're good mixtures with us with our boxes because they're not super expensive games. So they're a great mixture in our boxes that are, $35, $40. It's going to be one of your 3, 4, 5 games.
So King of Video Games, get yourself a copy of Call of Duty 3 because that's one that I think you can still play and enjoy. And I did want to just mention briefly a game that you cannot really play anymore because I believe it's dead. I don't know if the servers are up for this game. But we touched Call of Duty. How about Battlefield 2142?
Oh,
2006,
baby.
same year as Call of Duty 3. So I have a computer that is good, and I'm playing these two games at the same time.
Hell yeah.
This one doesn't have a campaign mode, but it has
Doesn't
two
need it.
really kick-ass multiplayer modes. It's
Doesn't need
developed by DICE, published by EA in 2006. In my opinion, I think it's before Overwatch, this was like the best AAA multiplayer shooter that I had played. I was addicted to this game and playing it with LANs. We would bring our computers over to Buck's house and LAN all our shits together and
You got
fucking
me.
play 2142. It has tons of vehicles. You know, the Battlefield franchise is famous for that. It's got classes, which Battlefield used to be famous for. My favorite class was the support class because you could do stuff. This takes place in the year 2142, and so
Yeah, so it's all
he would-
more futuristic.
yeah, he'd have
stuff.
like a grenade that would like make a force field show up, and then he would have like a big Gatling gun, and then you got a sniper
Hell yeah.
guy and an engineer
Battlefield's
guy.
so good.
In
Oh.
particular, there was
This
this
one in particular,
mode
though.
for this game called Titan
Titans,
gameplay, which
yes.
it was like each team. There
I
was the two
remember
team. I think they had up to like 64 player servers if you could
Mhm.
if you could
Yeah.
find one, and you'd have each team would have a big ship in the air, and the premise
like
was
a
that you
giant
had
Star
to,
Destroyer floating on either
huge,
side.
really big.
Like, literally huge.
You had to fly up to it, get inside it, and then blow it up from the inside. So this is Battlefield, so there's like a
Like
bunch of helicopters and
Fallout,
shit around.
Brotherhood of Steel infiltrating the Zeppelin.
Yes,
dude.
Yeah, dude. Oh, you're taking me
was-
way back.
There was this vehicle that would spawn that was just, it had like no weapons. It just had a cannon that shot straight up,
Yeah.
and it would shoot like your teammates in
It
pods.
had launching tubes, yeah.
With just literally with the premise of all this vehicle does is launch people from the floor to that
Yes.
ship. If in case they don't want to, everyone can't go out and get their own helicopter. There's not that many helicopters. You know what I mean? But
I
man,
remember that one had the like that. It had some hover jets. I remember.
Cool
But
shit. If you had a team that really worked together, you and your boys all jump up to the ship, land on top. There's some guys there. You kill them.
Mhm.
Then you break in through a vent. Get into a corridor,
Yeah.
have a standoff with some guys down the corridor, throw a grenade, kill, boom, you make into the core, and there's more guys waiting for you in their core. You got reinforcements coming in through the
So
back.
cool.
You're fucking trying to ring it around to get, it was like, whoa, this game,
dude,
I
still have a
wish
poster
it would
for
get
that game on my
rebooted so
wall.
badly.
yeah.
I want to play it again so
If-
badly.
If I had to activate some podcast powers
Yeah.
for the month of November, every time they
Oh.
announce a remake of an old one of those, like when they remade 1942, and I was like, no, or 2042 or whatever. I was
Right.
like, no, you missed
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
one. You
Yeah.
missed the
I
I
know.
want Battlefield 2142-2, please. But yeah, King of Video Games. I don't know if that game's online anymore, but as far as Gems, I wanted to mention that's one of my favorite first-person shooter games from
So
my
good.
youth. Really good. Buck, how about
Yeah.
you? What first-person shooter game gems do you have for the King of Video Games?
I'm gonna take you guys back as I always do, but I'm gonna find. I'm gonna preface this with saying none of you have heard of this, and someone's gonna have heard of it. But that someone out there, I know I'm gonna get that ooh moment out of you. The year is 1996,
Whoa.
and a company named Insomniac Games,
Oh,
famous for Spyro the Dragon, Ratchet and Clank, later on made the Resistance games,
yeah.
are creating a prototype for the 3DO.
Whoa. Okay.
But then the 3DO craps its pants and they
Right.
turn it into a PlayStation 1 game. I'm talking about Disruptor for the PlayStation
I don't
1.
know this.
Disruptor is a
Mm.
first-person shooter. You guys are going to call it a boomer shooter because that's what it is. It's like that. But
God, you're old.
enemies with 3D effects, great ambiance and music, and Venny, guess what? Almost DVD quality FMV cutscenes.
Oh,
Ooh,
I see it
okay.
here. I
I'm
see
listening.
it here.
You have my
Dude.
attention.
So not only does this game have a series of guns like a boomer shooter would have, and it has
Ah.
FMV cutscenes that are really good. My favorite is the one where you go to the levels and it's like, get to the teleporter, and it literally first person you walking down the corridors into the teleporter to get teleported into the level, but in FMV form. Then
Wow.
it switches to the first person view. So before a lot of any of these had done this, there's also a mechanic in this game called psionics. It's like upgrades for, let's call them like, I don't know, psychic powers or something. And you get
Okay.
points and you get access to upgrades like shock, drain, heal, shield, explosion, things like that. So
that's
you get
like Bioshock.
you get yes, very much. Games like this that people don't necessarily know about influenced some of these other games like we saw.
Of course, I'm sure. Yeah.
Ah.
I'm sure this influenced System Shock, which in turn became Bioshock.
This game, in my notes I wrote, this game is what Turok on the N64 wished it had been.
Wow, that's an excellent description.
yeah,
I'm looking at it right now, and that's for these environments, the sci-fi setting. It looks good. Once again, we said last week, get a great collection of video games of sevens, and you got yourself a great evening. This looks like a fantastic game to pop in and play. If you've never played it before.
Disruptor's a pretty neat game. I know our buddy Six absolutely loved this game growing up but again, like it's first person shooter, and you looked at the art, so it didn't even necessarily grab me as much as a kid. But when I found out about the FMV cutscenes, I of course immediately became a sucker for that as well too. So
hell yeah, nice, Raph. What first-person shooter would you like to lay at the feet of the king of video games today?
You know, when given this this task by the king, I was like, holy shit, there actually are quite a few FPS games that I used to play a lot of, some newer ones that I do play. But I think I'm going to go with a new game or newer game and then an older game as well. So my newer game is the 2016 Doom.
that game was so good.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so good.
Doom
Attaboy.
2016 kicks fucking ass, dude. It is one of the gnarliest, most metal shooters I've ever played in my life. Visceral combat, excellent music. This game does such a good job of keeping the momentum going in each and every single encounter. You're just hopping from, you run at the speed of like a freaking Mack truck. Like you're just like running around, just plowing through these demons, just ripping and tearing, man. You got to rip and tear until it's done. You feel powerful. Yes. When you shoot something, you run up to it, you squeeze its head until it explodes in your hands.
Pretty much.
Holy hell, man. And then the music, Mick Gordon, the composer for this.
Come on.
Yeah, incredible. He did this thing where like the music in the game layers on heavier and heavier depending on how many enemies are on screen at once. So you just at some point you reach a fever pitch of adrenaline and you're just tearing things up. And then by the end of a combat encounter, the music stops and you're just sitting there breathing heavy. Like I'm like, I could kill a gorilla right now.
That is
kill a gorilla.
No, I could kill a Magilla gorilla.
Every word that Raph just said is extremely fair because like that's the whole impetus of Doom. It gives you that powerful feeling. And
absolutely.
There are very few games like it.
You are the
really
fucking
feel
juggernaut.
like a badass. Yeah.
Did any of you play the follow-up Doom Eternal? 2020's Doom Eternal.
I did actually.
I enjoyed that one a lot
too. What's up?
I enjoyed that one a lot.
I think,
as well.
I honestly, a lot of people are kind of on the fence as to which one is better. I personally like the first one a lot more, but Doom 2, like Doom Eternal, that game added a whole like platforming thing that I thought was pretty awesome. I actually really dug the platforming and climbing in that. The combat, the way they did like the like pickups that you do, like you're refueling your weapons, refueling your health. They did a really good job of making you have to engage with the game, if that makes sense. Like you have to go kill things with the chainsaw so you can get more ammo, or do more execution so you get more health. It kind of like made this like triple point of balance of like power ups and all that stuff. But
because sometimes when you play those kind of games, you find the gun that you.
It's always satisfying.
Right.
You find the kind of gun that you really like and you just use that gun in most of those shooters, right? Yeah. And in that, it forced you through mechanics to vary your attacks.
Yeah. If you guys like, I mean, anybody listening to us, look up the song BFG Division and just put that on. It's the most kick-ass song in the game. It fucking rules. Mick Gordon is the man. But man, I struggled because there was a few other games that I really, really wanted to talk about. Some honorable mentions is Half-Life 2. I really wanted to talk about that one. I really wanted to talk about another game, a more broader one called Easy Red 2. You mentioned Battlefield 2142. That game gave me sort of the sense of like that kind of game, Battlefield 1942. But the game that I'm actually going to talk about is straight up not a war game at all. It is a first-person shooter. It's a zombie game, and it's Left 4 Dead 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
cool.
Raph.
Yes. Left 4
Attaboy.
Dead 1 and 2, kick ass. I bring it up actually because it's on sale as of this recording, and I actually bought it for Mac because it was like $1. So I was like, you need to play this game. He hasn't played it yet.
I
I'm like,
will
you need
play
to
it
play
with you. I will play it with
Yes.
you.
I think we should all play because I fucking
love
love
that
Left
game.
4 Dead 2.
Oh,
You know,
Magical.
Valve is just so good at making
Bill's
first-person shooters, man. They're
Bill's
just
here.
so good at it.
Yes.
Yeah, Bill's here. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Left 4 Dead 2, actually, in particular, right now it's worth getting because if you have Left 4 Dead 2, you have access to all of the campaigns for Left 4 Dead 1. You have access to all of the special infected in Left 4 Dead 1. Yeah, so you really only need to get Left 4 Dead 2 as of I think 2 years ago. They basically combined it, made Left 4 Dead 2 the Left 4 Dead definitive edition. So you have access to all 14 campaigns. Okay.
Wow.
No way.
I cannot
Seriously?
stress that enough. Yeah. There's 14
that's a big deal,
campaigns.
guys.
14 campaigns in this game, and each one of them has 5 levels in it or 3 levels or whatever, right? You know, that's how long your typical campaign is in
Wow.
in these games. But it's just the feeling of playing through the most kick-ass, high-speed, high-action zombie movie where you've got fast zombies running at you constantly. The zombies are all procedurally generated too, so every time that you play this game, it feels different. Even though the maps are the same, you've got different situations popping up all the time. And let me tell you, the last mission on each one of these is amazing. You could you end up
like the take and hold kind of thing,
right? Or trying to. My favorite is just straight up. There's one where you have to run across a freeway bridge, right? And you have to get to the end of it. To the helicopter that's going to help you escape, and then 2 tanks show up at some point in the middle of that. You're running with hordes of zombies coming at you. My friends are there, one of them is oh no, I'm down, keep going, and I'm like, no man left behind. Grab him, pick him up, shoot the zombies. You run, and then by the end of it, sometimes not all of you make it, and one of you ends up sacrificing themselves, and it's just such a great fucking game, man. Left 4 Dead 2, we need to play it. It's amazing.
The first time Vinny came over, one of the first thing he noticed is I have the original set of all 4 posters from the first 4 campaigns in the first Left 4 Dead, and he saw that and was like, "Oh, we'll be friends now."
Yeah. Oh, we're buddies now.
No, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
We'll play that now that I own it. Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Venicore, what first-person shooter tickles your fancy this evening?
I'm curious here.
This is living proof that we do not discuss these things ahead of time, because I was going to say Left 4 Dead 1 and 2.
No! I'm so sorry.
But no, this is perfectly fine. Because true believer here. I mean, it's wonderful, and everything that Raph said, I to the nth degree, he's 100% spot on. So let me pivot. The game that really, the game that really put FPS on the map for me, I guess, was a Half-Life 1 mod that released in 2003, World War II mod called Day of Defeat.
Yes! Thank you.
Which
that was also on my list. I'm
You
sorry.
two are having a moment right now.
Sorry.
Yeah. Me and Raph are like best buddies now. We just don't know.
Hell
it.
yeah.
This is like the
a
Left 4
great
Dead
game.
posters.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it was an era in time, guys. This was right after Team Fortress came out. I think it was before Battlefield 1 hit. Day of Defeat was before Battlefield 1, right?
Day of Defeat's an old game, yeah.
Yeah, it was right around Call of Duty 1 era.
Yeah.
I mean, this was back in the day where you did not play multiplayer games online with your friends. You went to a LAN party and you set up. And I very specifically remember
Or a LAN cafe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Going to a LAN center. It was actually this place that was a computer repair shop, but on the weekends all the kids came and they paid their $15 and we did LAN parties, and they had a fridge in the back and a vending machine and all that stuff. So
you drank balls, right? Everybody
yeah,
drank
balls,
balls.
exactly.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
BAWLS. That's what all the boomer kids. That's what all the boomer gamers drank in the early 2000s was balls.
We were very addicted to that for a very long time. They still, to this day, they still sponsor QuakeCon.
But
Balls is still around.
I really feel like with the entry of the orange box on the scene, if you guys remember the orange box, that's when we got Half-Life 2, Team Fortress 2, and help me out. There was some Portal. Thank you. I think
I
that
had that in
was,
my notes too.
and that was also for most people, that was the advent of Steam, because that was the first time you had to install Steam to play a game. It was required because they were
Mhm.
Valve titles. So my Steam account came online with the purchase of the Orange Box,
Oh
as
wow.
so many others did. And it was like a foray into FPS for the world at large, I think more than already. But anyway, not to get too off track, but Day of Defeat, look it up. It was like a very realistic, in the trenches of World War II. It was the Allies versus the Nazis. I mean,
Yeah.
straight up. I mean,
Yeah.
no sugarcoating, DEI free. It was Allies versus Nazis straight.
Mhm.
And it was team based. There were roles, and it was before role based shooters were really super popular. So it was my first exposure into this, and that's why when Team Fortress 2 became a thing, I was like, oh wow, this is great. It's kind of like Day of Defeat. You pick your class, and then years and years later, Overwatch, et cetera, and then
Right.
Concord, but you know.
And
You
then
know what?
Concord.
You know, it's so funny, Venny. I was just checking because I'm pretty sure I had a different Steam. Well, but you didn't have to have Steam when you played the original, like Counter Strike, right?
No, you
And
didn't.
I just
No, I
looked
don't
up
think
that
so.
fact because it literally blasted through my mind. Like, is that you see so accurate there? My Steam account is just turned 17 years old.
And
Unlocked October 10th, 17 years ago.
and
Do you know what came out on October 9th, 17 years ago?
what?
The Orange Box.
Wild.
Wow.
Wow.
If you played TF2, that was the jingle. Sorry.
Team Fortress 2 is awesome.
I've never played
too.
Team
Team
Fortress 2.
Team
Oh,
Fortress
really?
2
Oh,
was a
man.
gem.
I
You
know.
It
know,
was like the
I know.
original Overwatch.
Yeah.
I know.
yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah.
TF2
better.
original, I agree. Unmodded, none of the shenanigans like original TF2 was so good. It was so good. I mean, that's all we were playing in the early 2000s, the mid 2000s was like World of Warcraft, TF2, Elder Scrolls, Morrowind. I mean, Oblivion, excuse me. Well, Morrowind too, but
Final Fantasy 11.
Final Fantasy 11. Yeah. I was right there with you. Anyway, Your Majesty, if you've never had a foray into Day of Defeat, I would highly recommend checking it out. Blast from the past, and you will see a lot of DNA. You'll see a lot of modern shooter DNA way back when. Like it started way back when in the
Yeah.
DoD TF1 days.
That's cool.
So there you go.
That's a fantastic one. I've never heard of this game.
We got to play Left 4 Dead 2, guys.
We do have
Let's
to
do
play Left 4
this.
Dead 2.
Fuck-
That's so
fuck
funny.
yeah.
That was on your notes as well. Well, I owed it now, so we'll freaking play it. Anyhow, we are done
Reinstall it right
discussing
now.
first-person shooters, I believe. We are going to take another break, and when we come back, we're going to do our What Else You Got. And I'm very excited because now that Mr. Venicore is here, he's going to give his report on Metaphor ReFantazio. When we come back.
I will.
Let's go.
Gentlemen, I pray thee, what else have you got this week? Mr. Venicore, would you like to go first and
Sure.
quench all of our desire to hear about this game that none of us have been able to purchase yet, but most likely eventually will?
Because why are digital games the same price as physical ones?
Womp womp. So, if you haven't, check out on my YouTube channel. I did a full unboxing video of the collector's edition of Metaphor ReFantazio on the PS5. It is in the crosshairs for my game of the year, no question. I'm a huge
Really?
Yeah. I'm a huge JRPG stan, regardless. But I'll be very honest with you. Persona 5 was my first Persona game. That's when I discovered
Wow.
the genre.
Really?
Well, here's the thing, though. I played Persona 1 on the PS1, and it just did not hook me. But I did play it. So jumping right in, Metaphor ReFantazio is the latest from Atlus in their exquisite series of JRPGs, including the Persona series, the Shin Megami Tensei series, and the interesting twist of Metaphor is it is a true medieval setting fantasy JRPG with
Hmm.
all the Persona and SMT DNA baked in.
Mm.
the relationships, the personas. I mean, they're called something different, but let's be honest, they're the
Right.
personas.
Yeah.
And
Personos.
the job system, there's an exquisitely done job system in this game as well. So
Yes, that's
if
what I had the most questions about, the
Mhm.
job system,
yeah,
because
yeah,
that's the
yeah, yeah.
most different thing,
It's
I'd say.
very, guys, it is very Final Fantasy Tactics, this job
Awesome.
system.
Ooh, tic
Ooh,
tac.
Yeah.
really?
I'll
I like
explain.
that.
I'll explain. So if you've never played a Persona game before, or at least, 3, 4, 5, um, it is half turn-based JRPG and half time management life sim
Mhm.
Right.
party, RPG sim. What I mean by that is there's always like a main goal, and you always have a clock ticking down. And you can go right to the objective, go right into the dungeon, which is going to take you multiple runs to get to the objective. So you might have, let's say, 12 days to defeat, blah, 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 XYZ, get to the center and find out what's wrong with, this, MacGuffin.
Right.
But it's going to take you 2 or 3 tries to delve deep enough into this dungeon to reach the end. But you don't have to do that. You can go on side quests to level up. You can build relationships with your characters, which might unlock a new job or a new ability, which might make your time a little easier. You can spend the day, grinding, earning money, etc. It gives you all of these options on how to spend your time, and it's not railroading you into the main story necessarily.
Mm.
It's a really fun formula. And like I said, Persona 5 was the first one I really dug and sunk my teeth into. um but I gotta say, if you're a fan of SMT or Persona at all, you're going to adore Metaphor. um you know
I was
I,
hoping
I
this
don't
would
want to.
include the day simulating like things. Well, I mean, I imagine it's obviously
It
not like
does.
You love your
study for your big
jobs.
test or eat a giant burger, but what kind of
Instead, it's
yeah, like what is it?
overcome the
Yeah, I'm
plague
curious
and
about
find
that.
clean
Yeah.
water.
Right.
Like, well, part of the main story in Metaphor is,
Mhm.
without getting spoilery, you're kind of in the running to become the next king of
Okay.
the
Oh.
land. Because at the very
Ah.
beginning of the game, the very opening cinematic, the king dies, and
Uh-oh.
it's not a spoiler at all. It's the very first thing you see.
But
And
does your brother do it? And
it's in the
now it's Tecmo's
trailers.
deception.
the the king dies, and his the royal magic actually is allowing anyone in the land to become the next king if they are popular in the hearts of the people. So there's no voting. The magic actually reaches into the hearts of the people and pulls out who they are confident in. So you
Wow.
always, based on your deeds, you see your popularity going up and up and up, and the royal magic is protecting you from any
Uh,
wrongdoing. So you can't be
That's pretty cool.
assassinated. And it's there's a lot going on. It's very,
That's neat.
yeah,
Different.
it's really really neat. But like to your point, Mac, the daytime stuff, it would be, the relationship links, doing a speech to the people to raise your popularity,
That's awesome.
going
ah.
head to
Oh,
head with another
you're getting him.
candidate in a
You're getting him.
debate, helping with helping an NPC at their business, for example, going on a
Right.
side quest for a merchant to unlock new merchants.
Ooh.
Tons of really cool stuff to do. But I gotta say, the time management in Metaphor seems a lot more. Um, in Persona 5, it felt like it was pretty relaxed. In Metaphor, you always feel like you're under the gun. So there's all the decisions feel very high stakes, which I like,
Hmm.
because you feel like, oh shit, am I gonna mess up if I choose this instead of this?
Hmm.
It actually raises the stakes a little bit versus the traditional Persona formula, in my
Interesting.
opinion. Um, I'm like at the end of the second major dungeon at this point, air
Hmm.
Okay.
quotes. Um, and that's been pretty consistent throughout. But man, I got to tell you, the twists and turns in the story, like even up to now, have just been phenomenal. I mean, I won't go too much more into it because I really think you owe it to yourself to check it out. If you're a JRPG fan at all, Metaphor ReFantazio, cannot recommend it enough. And I will say one little parting shot without getting without getting political, but in modern age, there's a lot going on in the gaming industry. The gaming industry, gaming journalism, arguably is in a not great place right now because of a lot of external noise going
It's a
on.
return to form.
Oh God, don't get me started on Dragon Age. But regardless, Metaphor does everything right, and there's none of the garbage. It is a pure, lovely gaming experience, and just in a great way. And I can't really say enough good about it. It couldn't have come at a better time when, unfortunately, gaming in some circles has become a little politicized. There's a lot of noise, but Metaphor does a great job at just sidestepping all of that and delivering a fucking fantastic JRPG. So 10 out of 10 for me. It's probably going to be my game of the year.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
I have it wish listed. That's for damn
by
sure.
the
Yeah,
way,
same here.
not to get too ahead of myself, but in about 4 or 5 weeks, our new house is going to be done, guys. And
Nice.
the stream is going
Benny's
to start
return to
back up
form.
again. The Twitch channel is going to
Hell
start back
yeah.
up again, and I will absolutely be showing some of these things live on Twitch like 3 days a week. So stay tuned. That's my
Nice.
what else you got. And oh, lastly, we talked about Astrobot a couple weeks ago on the PS5. If you get all 300 bots in Astrobot, it unlocks a master challenge, which is fucking hard.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And I still haven't beat it. I'll let you know when I
Really?
finally beat it.
That's
I
awesome.
have not heard anything about that from like
Me
any
neither.
I own a
podcast
stupid
I've listened
PS5 and I don't even have that game. I'm such a loser.
It's called like the Grand Master Challenge or whatever. And my son is like, Daddy, we need to try the level again. And I still haven't beat it. Oh, we've probably attempted it 40 times. It's tough.
I want to see it.
Yeah. Hell
Yeah.
Well,
That's
for
awesome.
this week, that's fantastic, by the way. For this week, my what else you got is a video game.
Ooh.
I got a code for this game called Liminal Core through Buck. He, what's it called? Steam. What's the Next Fest?
No.
Just
We're
happened.
real game journalists now.
Yeah,
we get codes for
we
games.
got a code for this game. I'll call it a walking sim psychological horror
What's the name?
game. It is called Liminal Core. It is developed and published by Owl Studios and Ashen Studios. It's both. Both studios did both apparently. Anyhow, it came out officially October 28th of this year. It is not the first, I don't believe, of these like walking sim games that are themed around. It's like the Backrooms, for example, would be another game like this. But I do believe there's another liminal space horror. I don't know, like this has become a genre, is what I'm getting at. This this
So
sort of
good. It's a
game.
great genre.
It's where you're just sort of like vibing with the area, and there's no jump scares, at least to
There's
any
not.
parts
It
that I
looks
played.
super
It's
spooky,
just
but-
very. I wrote in my notes,
Oh,
this
Lord, huh?
game makes me makes me scream in weird ways because normally like when I'm playing like what was Silent Breath, for example, something scares me and I go whoa. Like
This
that's
is
how
the
you know what I
water
mean.
one.
Yes,
This
this
is
is
the
the one
there's a
everyone's
lot of
seen
water.
a lot of.
Yeah,
This is
there's
the one everyone's seen a lot of videos of
I
about the
saw,
pools
yes,
in it.
I
Yeah.
saw a ton of videos about this. Oh, I didn't know
See,
that
we're
was
real
this
game
one.
journalists. We got
Pool
keys to
is-
real games.
Pool is one of the categories on Steam, which I thought was funny. It's a pool type game.
Wow. Oh,
But
yeah, it's beautiful.
It's a pool like. You do get in the pool.
yeah. Oh, there's lots of pools in it. But
It's pool adjacent.
so
The back pools.
yeah, let me get into it and why it makes me
Okay.
scream in strange ways. So first off, developer note. You have to play this game with headphones because it picks up audio from you and then like puts an effect on it, like puts a reverb on it.
Oh.
Depending on the place that you're in. And so when I first sat down to play this game, my girlfriend was like, I want to watch you play it. And I was like, okay. So I turn it on, turn up the volume on my laptop, and we're playing it in the living room. And then I just like hear like a
Like it's picking up feedback.
Yes. And I was like, what the what whoa. And then I realized as I'm literally going, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? I was like, oh, it's picking up my voice, and it's okay. So I was like, fuck. So had to put in headphones because I was like, sorry, babe, I guess you can't. While you hear me play this game,
a solo experience.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I guess so. It was a thing where I booted it up and said, you should tell people that. In the options, there's no in the options menu, there's no input option for your microphone or your output for your headphones. So it was just
it just does it automatically.
It just like, by the way, we're picking up your microphone, and I was like,
Okay.
feels bad, man. Normally video games will tell you that they're going to do that, you know what I mean? And it's kind of weird when they don't, and then they just do it. I don't know. I feel like maybe an option to toggle that would be nice, so that if I want, because it doesn't really add anything to the experience other than you're in a very large tile room, and if you happen to go like, whoa, then it sounds like you're saying that in a large tile room.
Did it have like a splash screen that said like this game is best played with headphones? And
no,
okay.
And so I was like, okay,
important detail missed.
It's a $7.99 Steam game. It's fine. I can look beyond this. You know what I mean? So I put the headphones on, and it is like, it makes it to where when like I go like, what the fuck is that? I hear myself say, what the fuck? In like a echoey thing. It adds to the vibes. But for a geographically challenged person like myself, these walking simulators can be tiresome. At one point, I was like, my girlfriend was like trying to watch me play without the sound, and at one point I looked back because I was just like, sorry, I'm lost. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. So it's not really scary, but this game feels like the creators polled a bunch of people about what their nightmares are.
Oh,
because they're just like really specific vibes that were very strange. So liminality and what the word liminal means. A liminal space is like it has multiple definitions that you can view it from. Literally, it's like a space in which it's like a space that's meant to transport. Like when you go from one place to another, the space in between there is liminal. Purgatory would be liminal in a sense. A hallway is also liminal. Right. But from a psychological standpoint, it also has its own definitions, which is just like any space that makes you feel uncomfortable or awkward. So there's a lot of pools in this game, and Raph pointed out an interesting thing, which is like a pool is a place much like Disneyland or something where like nobody lives there. So nobody goes there and stays there. So a pool is a place where people come and then they go. And so there are times when nobody's there. So when you are there, when nobody is there, it's very uncomfortable because nobody's supposed to be there, but you're there. And so that's an instance in which a pool would be a liminal space. Yeah. So everything in this game, like basically all the zones that I went to is just like tile walls, which harkens another liminal space, which is like a subway, like the Tube in London, right? It's got tile walls in it. So it's very uncomfortable, but the thing that I want, the very, very specific thing that made me be like, this is so like, I have a recurring nightmare where I'm walking on like a dock, like in like a swamp, and the water of the swamp comes all the way to the dock. Like the water level is like right even with the dock. Yeah. And the water is incredibly murky. And so much, there was a moment in this game where it was just like the scariest thing that happened while playing it today was I walked down a set of stairs and I saw a very large stone head that was like halfway submerged in the water. And then I got a reward for megalophobia, whatever. It's like on Steam, like fear of large objects, which I was like, oh yeah, I kind of, but it was like, it's a statue. It's a statue of a head. So my body doesn't think that statues being large is weird inherently, right? Because I grew up in Florida. We go to Disney. There's a lot of statues in the world. Not that scary. So then you go down the stairs and then you hit a very narrow walkway that has water on either side with no handrails. And it's just like my nightmare. And I'm fucking walking and I see this large head statue and I'm like, that's fine. And you have to walk very close to it. You have to walk very close to it. And then when you walk past it, you hear a loud swoosh, like sloshing sound. And so I go, and I turn around and it's gone. And then when I turn back around, it is right in front of me. But this time it is a lot more out of the water. And the mouth is just like gaping open right in front of me. And I turned and went, like, I I made the strangest noise I've ever made involuntarily. I didn't scream. I sounded like I went whoa, 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 whoa. It was really funny. I was just like, that was scary, but in a way that I cannot explain. And then you get down to the end of that hallway area, and it just ends in that very narrow walkway, just goes into a dark tunnel. And then when you get into the dark tunnel, you just hear like, and I just walked into it and went, oh no, I don't like this at all. And just walked out, immediately turned around and walked out.
So it is scary.
It is scary, but like I said, in like a way that like a nightmare is scary, and not like in a way like getting chased by a killer is scary. Like, I don't know. It was just like that specific thing. Like, I cannot emphasize the narrow walkway thing. I was like, are other people scared of this? Do other people have nightmares like this? How did these guys? Did they have like a handbook of psychological phobias out, and one of them is walking in a very narrow walkway with water that comes up to the height of the walkway? Because that's pretty targeted. I feel targeted with that specific scare. But yeah, Liminal Core, it's got a bunch of scares like that. There's a part where you have to enter a body of water basically up to your neck, and then there's a house that is submerged in the water, and you have to go into it. And there's a bunch of like dummies in there, like a bunch of mannequins, and they're just placed in, none of them attack you or anything, but they're just placed in places that are just like, I don't like that.
It sounds like someone did a study in like specific like out there fears, like rare fears.
That's what it really, really feels like. That's the bet. That's like the. I have very few notes on it other than that. Is like it feels
like there's no clowns, there's no heights,
there's no
none
spiders,
of the really
there's no
obvious,
stuff
like
that's
none of the
like
obvious
really.
fears.
Instead, it's like dark pool or like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
It's like out there fears, but it's also kind of fears that I feel like are like deep in your psyche.
Yeah,
right? You know,
for
it's
reasons
like
that I couldn't understand.
the deep ocean,
but I got them.
Scary, you know, like. It's there.
Yeah,
the
dark water. It was like, so I think my body's like thinking that something's gonna grab me because the water's too dark. Like, I don't like this. Like nothing's happening, but I don't like this. It's so scary.
So mission accomplished, I guess. Right?
I guess.
I mean, like
yeah. If you are a streamer and you do these walking simulators because you like back rooms and stuff, this is a good one. It's another one.
Were the areas like very, very like large, like endless?
Most of them,
or?
yes, they have, and most of them are very well lit. A lot of them are just really well lit. It's very few dark places that I experienced.
So it's not
but
about.
Like,
okay.
There's like a big there's like a big room that has one of those kids slides in it, like the wavy rug slides.
I saw that in the trailer, yeah.
And that's another one where you're just like, when the ups come, they're too high, so you can't see over them, and it's just enough to where you're just like, I don't like this. I don't know. I can't explain it. If you like horror games and you know this one's less than $10, you can get it, and there's no jump scares, but it's like a really weird, surreal dream. I liked it. I don't know if I would buy it, frankly. I think that my notes would be, you should fix that thing with the voice there, Ashen Studios. But
that's a pretty easy fix.
Yeah, that's an easy fix. So yeah, keep updating your game. It's cool and weird and creepy, and you hacked my nightmares, so don't do that. Buck, what else have you got for us this week?
Speaking of my nightmares, Clock Tower Rewind came out on Steam.
Yeah, I knew he was gonna. Yeah,
baby. I pre-ordered the physical with limited run like a year ago, but it's not out yet. I probably won't open it anyway. But the digital is normally only $20, on sale for $15, I think, as the release price. And poor old Jennifer has already died once because I already fired it up.
Nice.
And got to it. Oh man, that guy loves
this one's a remaster of Clock Tower.
So it's cool. It's called Rewind because what they did way forward, the guys that made, I think River City Girls, a lot of those cool beat 'em ups and stuff. I know, right? That have done all these new ones.
Yeah, those guys kick ass.
They did not like remake it in the sense, like they didn't take the sprites and redo them. They took the original ones, didn't even really up-res that. What they worked on instead was they took Clock Tower First Fear. First Fear is the Japanese only PS1 re-release of the Super Famicom only original release.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Where they added a little more content.
We talked about this on our survival horror episodes a little bit.
Which is funny because I've never even played that version, so there's going to be some content I haven't even seen. Marks the first time that we've actually ever gotten a translated version of Clock Tower in the States. Like, you can play in English, which is awesome. And then they added a bunch of like anime cutscenes that they had
Yeah, they look really
commissioned
cool too.
for I know I'm looking forward to some of those. So they
Yeah.
show a bunch in like the opening, they show a flash of a bunch of them, but they still keep all the old sprite based cutscenes in the game as well too. Like there's the one with all the girls walking up to the mansion initially. That game hits the wall really hard. Like there's hardly any intro. It's like there's these girls, they got adopted from this orphanage at this thing. Okay, I'm gonna go see the master of the house. Scream, everyone's gone, game starts.
Yeah.
Like it
Cool.
clock tower jumps right into it.
Hell
So
yeah.
if I'm streaming tonight, I will probably be streaming some of that because that's
I
why
want to
I
watch
did.
that. That sounds
That's
fun.
why I did
Yeah.
Into the Pit like 2 weeks ago, because that was giving me real clock tower vibes. It's interesting. There's a couple like quality of life updates that they must have added in First Fear that the original didn't have. Like for instance, because the PlayStation also had bumper buttons. I guess the Super Famicom did too, but you don't have to click on everything just to get Jennifer to move. You can hit the right or left bumper just to make her move in a direction.
Oh, that's
And then you
helpful.
can just click on something if you want her to interact with it or use an item on it or talk to it, which, yeah, that's a really cool quality of life update. But that game has like, I don't know, 11 or 10 or 11 endings or something like that, like different ways you can escape or die, who you save, who you don't. So it's the kind of game where like, even on a decent playthrough, you might only be playing for 30 minutes or an hour or so, and you get a certain ending. Then you go back to do things a different way to get a little bit different one.
Oh, I didn't realize you could beat it that fast.
Yeah, it's not.
Stream that. I want to see that shit.
If you want to get it like all the way to the end and get
Yeah.
all the way to the, I mean, it still is only like, it's still less than 2 hours, I think, if you know all the right choices to make and where to go, because you have to skip a lot of other content if you don't want to die or you don't want Jennifer's panic level to get too high, and then because you can fight off Scissorman if he attacks you, as long as it doesn't happen too many times in a row, because her little stress her little icon in the corner, not only does the background go from like a lighter whitish yellow to like a yellowish red to like a red color, like her expression slowly gets more like
So that's how that. I bought this game last night too. After I saw you were playing
Awesome.
it, I was like, "Oh shit, let me just pick this up." And I had my first experience with it yesterday, and I was having
Awesome.
trouble because I'd never played this game before,
Mhm.
understanding. Like, I'm like, okay, I think this is my health, right? Like, then that makes sense.
Not really.
No, not really.
Not
No,
really.
okay.
There's no health. You're not meant to fight him, but there's a
Right.
handful of scenarios where you can corner yourself. But rather than the game saying, "Well, you're fucked. You got to go
You
back,"
might fight him off. I
you
figured
can
that,
fight him
yeah.
off. The cool thing is since this is a newer version, you have a separate menu where you can save at any time. So if if you think something bad is going to happen, you can then try a couple different ways to contend with that, because
You can rewind
kind of
too. Yeah.
yes, and yeah, I haven't really played with that mechanic much, but that's
Mm.
super cool that it's got that. This game, kind of like that Five Nights at Freddy's Into the Pit and some of these other newer ones like that, it has that hide mechanic, right? Like he's chasing you. What do? There's a box. Well, I couldn't interact with the box before. Well, you're being chased now, so now you can get in the box and try and hide from him.
Ooh, that's cool.
Love it.
Solid snakes out. Raph, what else have you got for us this week?
I actually have a lot this
Take
week,
us
but
home.
I'm going to try to be brief. I figured we probably are a little short on time here, but a couple of things. So I picked up a game over the course of this last week that I thought was really cool, and I thought I'd bring it up. This game is called Gravity Circuit.
Oh, you
yeah,
got it,
well-
eh?
What's up?
I love that game. I've had it on my wish list for years.
Oh, yeah.
That game
Yeah,
looks that looks like Buck. You would love this game.
I think you would like it too. Yeah, I straight up
Okay.
picked it up. It's got overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. It came out last year in like July, I want to say. And it really reminds me of Mega Man, but like if Mega Man was kind of like I wouldn't say a beat 'em up, but like it's melee based. Like you're punching shit instead of shooting.
Like Guacamelee.
I guess, yeah. But the music is fantastic.
Oh,
You
yeah.
play as a
Ooh,
guy
yeah.
that looks like the mobile suit, like the Gundam from like Mobile Suit Gundam. Like
He looks
the-
like
I don't know,
Shredder or something.
yeah, he looks like Shredder. Yeah, he's got like this kind of like I don't know. He's got like this mask on. It looks really cool. I fucking love it. The music's fantastic. Really fun, fast-paced game. The other
Yeah.
thing that I wanted to
Very
bring up
Mega
is
Man.
that this week we saw a movie called Mad God, and that movie was also pretty cool.
Buck, okay, yeah. So Mad
Yeah.
God, I'm glad Raph brought this. This is
Yeah, I
on
know.
Shudder. I think it's a Shudder production, perhaps. But Phil
Maybe, yeah.
Tippett, do you know who that is?
Off the top of
Phil
my head.
Tippett.
That's the
He's
dude that did
yeah.
the stop motion for Star Wars, like the
Oh.
Return of the Jedi or
Oh
the
my
Empire
God.
Strikes Back, And
Phil Tippett is the guy that made the magic happen at Industrial Light and Magic.
Oh, cool.
In reality,
yeah,
like,
he got brought into Jurassic Park not to do the Velociraptors, because everybody knows they're famously CG, but they literally brought him in just because he is so excellent at understanding how animals move that they just had him supervise the CG of the raptors. So he spent 35 years making a stop motion horror movie called Mad God.
Oh.
And it is fine.
It's a mixed bag.
It is a vibe. Man, if Max says it's a vibe, then holy
No, I said
shit.
it's fine. It's fine.
It's very much a mixed bag. Some of the way I saw it was that it's a series of vignettes. I wouldn't even call it like a heavy metal style anthology series. It's a very loosely kind of put together set of vignettes.
Like Dante's Inferno without Virgil as a guide and none of the poetry.
That's what I thought it was going to be. You're watching it and it's we looked up people's thoughts afterwards, and no one could summarize the movie. In everyone's review of the movie, you have to explain plot point by plot point what is happening, because there's no way to summarize it. Hence the whole, it feels more like an anthology, because it seems to be at best a meandering, but at worst a non-existent plot, essentially, where it's just there's this guy and he's walking through hell. I guess he's sent by God or something, and then he gets killed or whatever, and then another guy comes, I think, and then
this is a very accurate breakdown of the plot of this.
In Dante's Inferno, I was thinking that at the beginning, because it's like, oh, it's a guy walking through hell. But then if in Dante's Inferno, in the third page, Virgil dies, and you're like, oh, well, so then it's not about a guy walking through hell anymore. And then they go back to God, and he goes, Virgil did what? And then they show a shot where Virgil gets remade out of Frankenstein parts, and then they send him back. And you're just like, hey, movie, real quick, what's going on? I just want to know what the fuck is happening real quick.
I ain't telling you.
I have a main character here, but I don't know what his objective is. And so it's really hard to care about what is happening, because
exposition's for winners.
It's just like you basically see that this guy is bringing a bomb in a briefcase down to hell, I guess, to try to blow it up, I think.
Okay.
But then it's just like when he gets there, there's a bunch of briefcases and none of them have gone off. So you're like, oh, so this has been happening. Someone keeps sending these guys down to hell to blow it up. Who? And then it's just like, I don't know, this guy. And it's just like a guy with long fake fingernails.
With this
it's
weird,
like, that's not stop motion animation. It's just like a guy like being filmed. I don't know, man. It's one of those things where a genius spend his whole life making it, so I want to really give it the benefit of the doubt, but I was quite sleepy during the movie, because I was like, not much happening.
I saw it, honestly, is that you gave one of the like special effects masters of like the 20th century 35 years to make a movie, and what did he make? He made a very well made special effects showcase. That's essentially what it is. It felt like an art installation, like you said the other night. It's mostly nonsense, but at the same time, there's a few very beautiful sequences in the movie. But then there's also a few that are really not, and a few that are actually kind of boring and linger a little too long.
Yep.
But I recommend it just to like experience the cool like stop motion animation, because some of it is pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
There's like when he's walking through with like the lantern, and I'm like, oh, this is obviously an LED, but it's so incredibly bright that it feels ethereal and dreamy. It doesn't feel real, but it also feels real because the motion feels so real and good, and like
because it's literally a bunch of puppets in a room that's like in another room, like a little tiny room.
And there were times
all the light bouncing is actually bouncing. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, that's one of the movies I saw this week. I also saw In a Violent Nature, which Mac has talked about before. That movie,
I've seen it too. I liked it.
Oh, you did? You watched it?
You finally watched it?
Yeah.
Okay,
nice.
Good.
I did. I enjoyed it. It was interesting.
Yeah, that movie kicked ass in my opinion.
It's what if Mac was in charge of Friday the 13th?
Right.
110%. Yes. And I was there for it.
Yeah. Well, excellent. That is our show today, gentlemen. We have been set free from the first-person shooter episode. So have you, viewer.
I talked about it last week. You weren't here.
Yeah. Do us a huge favor and please like and subscribe. If you are just listening to this, why don't you head on over to Instagram at the Game Treasure Podcast so you can see us do some of the funnier things from the episodes.
Fancy boy.
Just like in small, tiny snippets, like when you're washing the dishes and then you got to dry your hands and you have an addiction to your phone. So you pick it up and you got like 30 seconds and then boom, you see a crash zoom in my face. It's really funny. Make sure to check out our live streams Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And I've been streaming on Wednesdays. I've been streaming with Caitlin Barrios. We are doing Baldur's Gate Dark Urge playthrough. It's been very fun. Finally, reach out to us with game codes. Reach out to us with your games that you want us to play. Reach out to us with comments or questions at our Gmail at gametreasurepodcast@gmail.com. You can find links to all of our stuff at our Linktree, linktree.com/VGTP. We want to thank Crunkwitch for the use of our theme song, Clash of the Droids.
Crunkwitch just started an Indiegogo fund me thingy for their 5th album. Let's go support them.
There we
guys.
go. You can find their music on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you can find music on the internet. Go check them out. They are a super nice musical duo. And of course, we would like to thank RetroGameTreasure.com, owned and operated by the Megabuck himself. Retro Game Treasure is a subscription service that sends collectors customized boxes of retro video games every month. You simply make your profile at www.retrogametreasure.com, and every month you will receive boxes hand curated to fill out your collection. What do I mean by your collection? I'm talking the types of games that you like to collect for the systems that you like to collect for. You tell them that you own an N64 and you own a Dreamcast and you own a Game Boy and you like racing games and you like platformers and you like shooting games. So every month your box of games will have those games in it. He even keeps track of what games you already own in your collection to make sure that you don't get those repeat games. It's a magical service that uses the power of numbers to make collecting retro games easy. So go to www.retrogametreasure.com because we have been obsessed with video games since 1985. Buck, do you have a new subscriber list you would like to hit me with this week?
This week, we're welcoming Chris Mariner, Murdul Dev, Adam Rollins, and Mary Catherine August Collins.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much. It means a lot. Until next week, my name is Max Stein, and I love the Game Treasure Podcast. It's so bad.
It's so bad.